High above the clouds, where the air thins and the earth stretches toward the sky, the Andes stand as silent sentinels of time. These mountains, jagged and unforgiving, are more than just rock and ice. They are the keepers of secrets, the guardians of civilizations long vanished. Imagine standing on a ridge, the wind whispering through ancient stone, and realizing you're walking the same paths as the Inca, the Chachapoya, and other cultures whose names have faded into legend. This is a land where every peak hides a story, every valley cradles a mystery waiting to be unraveled. For centuries, the Andes have captivated explorers and scholars alike, not just for their breathtaking beauty, but for the enigmas buried within their slopes. The Inca Empire, with its sprawling cities and intricate roads, is just the beginning. Beneath the surface lie older, deeper secrets, lost temples, forgotten tombs, and artifacts that defy explanation. How did these ancient people thrive in such a harsh environment? What rituals unfolded under the watchful gaze of these towering summits? And perhaps most tantalizing of all, what remains undiscovered, still hidden in the shadow of these peaks? This is a journey into the heart of one of the world's greatest historical puzzles. Together, we'll traverse winding mountain trails, decode the clues left behind by masterful builders, and piece together the stories of those who once called these heights home. From the legendary Machu Picchu to lesser-known ruins shrouded in mist, we'll uncover how archaeology and modern technology are bringing these ancient whispers back to life. So tighten your boots and take a deep breath, because the mountains of the ancient Andes are ready to share their secrets, and what we find might just change how we see the past. The Andes didn't rise overnight. This colossal mountain range is the result of an epic battle between tectonic plates that began over 60 million years ago. Picture the Nazca Plate, a massive slab of Earth's crust, slowly but relentlessly pushing beneath the South American plate. This collision didn't just crumple the land upward, it sculpted the jagged ridges, deep valleys, and towering peaks that define the Andes today. Every earthquake, every volcanic eruption, even the slow creep of glaciers, has left its mark, creating a landscape as dynamic as it is dramatic. What makes this region truly extraordinary is how its extremes fostered life. At one elevation, you'll find bone-dried deserts where rain might not fall for years. Climb higher, and suddenly you're in cloud forests teeming with orchids and hummingbirds. Higher still, the air grows thin, and alpine grasslands give way to snowfields that glitter under the relentless sun. This diversity didn't just challenge ancient peoples, it inspired them. Cultures like the Inca didn't merely survive here, they thrived, adapting their farming, building, and even their spirituality to harmonize with the mountains' rhythms. Take their architecture, for example. The Inca didn't fight the terrain, they embraced it. Their stonework followed the natural contours of the land, with terraces carved into steep slopes to grow crops and temples positioned to align with celestial events. The mountains weren't just a home, they were sacred, woven into every aspect of daily life. Even today, modern archaeologists marvel at how these societies engineered cities like Machu Picchu, where buildings seem to grow straight from the bedrock, untouched by centuries of earthquakes. But the Andes hold older stories too. Long before the Inca, cultures like the Chavin and Tiwanaku left their own marks, mysterious carvings, underground temples, and roads that snake across impossible cliffs. Why did they choose such remote, inhospitable places? Perhaps because the mountains offered protection, or maybe because their power demanded reverence. Either way, the geology that shaped the Andes also shaped humanity's greatest achievements here. turning sheer necessity into breathtaking innovation. Now, as sunlight spills over a highland ridge, casting shadows across ruins still half buried in the earth, one thing is clear: the story of the Andes isn't just written in rock. It's etched into the very soul of the people who dared to call these heights home. And with every new discovery, we're reminded that the mountains still have secrets to share. Long before the Inca built their empire, the Andes were already home to brilliant civilizations whose innovations still leave us in awe. Among the earliest, the Chavin culture emerged around 3,000 years ago, carving temples into the mountainsides and creating intricate stone carvings that seemed to pulse with spiritual energy. Their religious center at Chavin de Huanta wasn't just a place of worship, it was an architectural marvel, with underground tunnels designed to amplify the sound of rushing water, turning ceremonies into immersive experiences. Imagine standing in those dark passageways, the echoes of chanting priests blending with the roar of hidden rivers, all engineered to inspire awe. Further north, the Machu people transformed the arid coastal valleys into lush farmlands using advanced irrigation systems. They dug miles of canals to redirect river water, turning deserts into fields of corn, beans, and squash. But their genius didn't stop at agriculture. Machu artisans crafted pottery so detailed it feels like a window into their world, vessels shaped like warriors, healers, even mythical creatures, each telling a story. Some jars depict intricate surgeries, suggesting medical knowledge far ahead of its time. How did they perfect such lifelike artistry without modern tools? The answer lies in their patience and skill, qualities that made the Machu one of the Andes' most sophisticated early cultures. Then there are the Nazca, whose legacy stretches across the desert in lines so vast they can only be fully seen from the sky. Birds, spiders, even a humanoid figure etched into the earth, these geoglyphs remain one of archaeology's greatest puzzles. Were they messages to the gods, astronomical calendars, or perhaps pathways for ritual processions? Whatever their purpose, the Nazca lines reveal a society deeply connected to their environment, capable of precise, large-scale planning without the benefit of flight or modern technology. What ties these cultures together is their ability to adapt and innovate. The Chavin mastered spiritual engineering, the Machu excelled in art and agriculture, and the Nazca turned the desert itself into a canvas. Each civilization built upon the knowledge of those who came before, creating a foundation that would later allow the Inca to unite the Andes under a single empire. Their stories remind us that greatness doesn't appear out of nowhere, it's the result of centuries of ingenuity, passed down like a sacred torch across generations. And as we uncover more of their secrets, we're not just learning about the past, we're discovering the roots of human resilience, written in stone, clay, and earth. Among these towering peaks and deep valleys, no civilization left a mark as profound as the Inca. Emerging in the early 13th century, they transformed the Andes into the heart of an empire that stretched over 2,000 miles from modern-day Colombia to Chile. What makes their story extraordinary isn't just the scale of their conquests, it's how they mastered the mountains themselves. Their capital, Cusco, wasn't just a city, it was a living testament to their ingenuity. Built in the shape of a puma, its streets followed the natural flow of rivers, while its temples and palaces blended seamlessly with the rugged terrain. The Incas didn't force the land to conform, they listened to it, learning its rhythms and turning its challenges into strengths. At the center of their world stood the sacred valley, a fertile cradle of terraced fields and ceremonial sites that fed both body and soul. Here, the Inca practiced a kind of agriculture that still astonishes modern farmers. They carved step-like terraces into near-vertical slopes, each layer carefully engineered to prevent erosion and capture sunlight. Some of these terraces were even designed to create microclimates, allowing crops like potatoes, quinoa, and maize to thrive at altitudes where few believed farming was possible. But their brilliance didn't stop at cultivation. The Inca built granaries high in the mountains, using the cold, thin air to naturally preserve food, a prehistoric refrigeration system that sustained their empire through droughts and harsh winters. Key to their expansion was Pachacuti, the visionary ruler who transformed the Inca from a small kingdom into a mighty empire. His strategies were as bold as they were effective. Instead of crushing conquered peoples, he often integrated them, offering incentives like land, prestige, and protection in exchange for loyalty. Roads became the lifelines of this vast domain, over 24,000 miles of pathways connecting mountain peaks, jungle lowlands, and coastal deserts. These weren't just dirt trails. Some were paved with stone, others equipped with suspension bridges woven from grass, strong enough to carry armies and llamas laden with goods. Messengers called chasquis sprinted along these routes, relaying news across the empire at speeds that rivaled horseback. Yet for all their achievements, the Inca remained shrouded in mystery. How did a culture with no written language administer such a complex empire? Why did their meteoric rise end so abruptly with the arrival of the Spanish? Some clues lie in their intricate knot records called quipus, which may have encoded everything from tax records to epic poems. Others linger in the stones of Machu Picchu, the lost city that was abandoned before conquistadors ever set foot there. The mountains still guard these secrets, whispering fragments of a story we've only begun to piece together. And as we walk these ancient paths, we're left wondering what else might be waiting, hidden in the shadows of these eternal peaks. Perched high in the mist-shrouded Andes, Machu Picchu feels less like a ruin and more like a dream carved in stone. When American explorer Hiram Bingham stumbled upon it in 1911, overgrown with jungle vines and hidden by centuries of secrecy, even he didn't grasp the full magnitude of his discovery. Local farmers had known about the site for generations, but to the outside world, this was a lost city frozen in time, its purpose as enigmatic as its flawless construction. Was it a royal retreat for Inca emperors, a sacred temple complex, or perhaps both? The truth may lie in the stones themselves, each one cut with such precision that not even a blade of grass can slip between them. What makes Machu Picchu an engineering marvel isn't just its beauty, it's how the Inca outsmarted the mountains. The entire city is built atop two fault lines, yet it has withstood centuries of earthquakes. The secret, their stonemasons shaped each block to interlock like a puzzle, allowing the walls to sway and settle during tremors without collapsing. Terraces cascade down the slopes, not just for farming but to stabilize the steep terrain, funneling rainwater away to prevent landslides. Even the placement of buildings was deliberate. Windows align with solstices, and shadow patterns suggest the site may have been an astronomical observatory. This wasn't just a place to live, it was a symphony of science, spirituality, and stone. Yet Machu Picchu's greatest mystery isn't how it was built, it's why it was abandoned. Unlike other Inca sites ravaged by Spanish conquest, this city shows no signs of battle or forced evacuation. Some theories suggest a smallpox outbreak left it deserted. Others believe it was a seasonal retreat, vacated as the empire crumbled. The most haunting possibility, that the Inca themselves chose to erase its existence, dismantling sections of the trail leading to it, as if ensuring the mountains would reclaim their secret. And while Machu Picchu rightfully captivates the world, it's just one thread in a much larger tapestry. Deeper in the Andes, sites like Choqquequirau, dubbed Machu Picchu's sister city, await with equal grandeur but a fraction of the visitors. Then there's Lactapota, a ceremonial site aligned perfectly with Machu Picchu's sunrise. hinting at a sacred network of interconnected shrines. Each discovery peels back another layer, revealing not just a lost city, but an entire lost world. And somewhere in these peaks, the next great revelation still lies hidden, waiting for the right moment to step out of the shadows. Beyond the crowds of Machu Picchu, the Andes conceal other marvels, equally breathtaking but far less traveled. Choqquequirao, perched on a remote ridge in the cloud forest, is often called Machu Picchu's sister city, and for good reason. Its terraces cascade down the mountainside like a staircase for giants, and its ceremonial plazas still echo with an almost palpable silence. Reaching it requires a grueling 2-day trek, a journey that keeps all but the most determined visitors away. Yet those who make the effort are rewarded with something rare, the chance to stand among ruins untouched by time, where the only sounds are the wind and the distant cry of an Andean condor. Choqquequirao isn't alone. Vitcos, the last refuge of the Inca rulers during their resistance against the Spanish, hides in the Vilcabamba Mountains. Here, the stone walls of Nuestra Hispana, the White Rock, bear intricate carvings that may have served as a celestial calendar or a map of sacred sites. Nearby, Espiritu Pampa sprawls across the jungle floor, its overgrown plazas and crumbling temples hinting at a once great city reclaimed by the forest. These sites aren't just isolated ruins, they're pieces of a puzzle, linked by a network of roads and pathways that stitched the empire together. What's astonishing is how much remains undiscovered. In recent years, LiDAR technology, laser scanning that pierces through dense vegetation, has revealed startling hints of lost settlements. In the Peruvian Amazon, scans uncovered what appears to be a sprawling complex of pyramids and plazas, buried for centuries under layers of earth and trees. In the highlands, researchers found traces of terraces and canals suggesting entire agricultural systems still waiting to be unearthed. Every scan, every expedition, peels back another layer of this vast hidden world. These discoveries challenge what we thought we knew about the Inca. Their empire wasn't just a collection of famous sites, it was a living, breathing network, with roads connecting mountain fortresses, jungle outposts, and coastal hubs. The more we find, the clearer it becomes. Machu Picchu was never meant to stand alone. It was part of something far greater, a tapestry of stone and sky woven across the Andes. And as technology lifts the veil on these forgotten places, one question lingers: what other secrets lie hidden just beyond our sight? But to truly grasp the genius of the Inca, we must look closer at how they built these wonders. Their engineering wasn't just advanced, it bordered on the impossible. The precision of Inca stonework defies logic even today. Massive blocks of granite and limestone, some weighing over 100 tons, were carved and fitted together so perfectly that not even a knife blade can slip between them. How did they achieve such accuracy without modern tools? The answer lies in patience and an intimate understanding of materials. Stonemasons likely used harder rocks to pound and shape each block, then polished the surfaces by rubbing them with sand and water. But the true genius was in their assembly. Rather than forcing stones into place, they shaped each one to interlock naturally, like pieces of a three-dimensional puzzle. This technique, called ashlar masonry, didn't just create stunning walls, it made them earthquake-proof. During tremors, the stones shift slightly before settling back into place, a design so effective that many Inca structures still stand centuries later, while colonial buildings around them lie in ruins. Their mastery extended far beyond cities. The Inca road system, spanning an astonishing 25,000 miles, was the lifeblood of their empire. These weren't simple dirt paths. Engineers carved staircases into sheer cliffs, built causeways across swamps, and suspended fiber bridges over raging rivers. One of their most astonishing feats was the rope bridges woven from iku grass. some stretching over 150 feet across deep gorges. Every year, communities would gather to renew these bridges in a communal ritual, braiding new strands into the old, blending practicality with tradition. Messengers called chasquis could relay news from Quito to Cusco, a distance of over 1,000 miles, in less than a week, thanks to this network. Equally groundbreaking were their agricultural terraces, which turned steep slopes into fertile fields. By constructing stone-retaining walls and layering soil with gravel for drainage, the Inca created microclimates that could grow crops at altitudes once deemed impossible. Some terraces even used underground channels to direct meltwater from glaciers, ensuring irrigation year-round. But these innovations weren't just about survival. They reflected a worldview where farming and spirituality intertwined. Terraces often mirrored the sacred stepped shape of their temples, and planting cycles aligned with celestial events. What united these marvels was a philosophy of harmony. The Inca didn't conquer nature, they conversed with it, shaping their technology to honor the mountains, rivers, and stars they revered. Every road, bridge, and wall served dual purposes, uniting an empire physically while binding it spiritually to the land. And as modern engineers study their techniques, we're left to wonder, in our rush to build higher and faster, what ancient wisdom might we have overlooked? To the Inca, the towering peaks of the Andes weren't just part of the landscape, they were living gods. These sacred mountains, known as apus, stood as divine protectors, their snow-capped summits breathing life into the valleys below. Among them, Osangate reigns supreme, its jagged silhouette visible for miles, a constant reminder of nature's power and generosity. The Inca believed these apus controlled water, weather, and fertility, making them the unseen rulers of daily life. A farmer planting potatoes, a shepherd guiding llamas, even an emperor planning a conquest, all sought the favor of these mountain deities through prayers and offerings. One of the most profound rituals honoring the apus was the Pachacuti ceremony. During times of crisis or celebration, the Inca would select children, often from noble families, to serve as messengers to the gods. These children, dressed in fine textiles and adorned with gold, would journey to sacred sites high in the mountains, where they were given chicha, corn beer, and coca leaves before being sacrificed. Archaeologists have uncovered these solemn offerings frozen in time, their bodies preserved by the icy peaks, surrounded by figurines of gold and silver. To modern eyes, the practice may seem jarring, but for the Inca, it was the ultimate act of reciprocity, a gift to the gods who gave them everything. This spiritual bond with the mountains didn't vanish with the fall of the Inca Empire. Today, Andean communities still honor the apus with despacho ceremonies, bundles filled with flowers, candy, and coca leaves offered to the peaks. Pilgrims trek to high-altitude lakes like Culinary, where dancers in vibrant costumes perform under the stars, blending Catholic and indigenous traditions. The mountains remain living entities, their presence woven into festivals, songs, and even daily greetings. A farmer might still whisper a prayer before planting, or a traveler toss a stone onto a cairn as a sign of respect. What makes this connection even more intriguing are the secrets these sacred peaks still guard. Recent discoveries have revealed burial sites and artifacts hidden in glacial ice, preserved for centuries as if the mountains themselves were reluctant to give them up. Frozen mummies, intricately woven textiles, and golden idols emerge as the ice retreats, each find offering a glimpse into the spiritual world of the Inca. And with climate change rapidly melting these ancient time capsules, archaeologists race against time to uncover their stories before they vanish. In the shadow of Osangate, where the wind carries the echoes of centuries, one truth becomes clear: the Andes are more than rock and ice. They are a testament to humanity's enduring dialogue with the divine, a bond as unshakable as the mountains themselves. And as long as these peaks touch the sky, their stories and their mysteries will continue to unfold. For centuries, the name El Dorado conjured visions of a city paved with gold, a place so wealthy its king dusted himself in precious metal before diving into a sacred lake. But this glittering myth, which drove countless European explorers to obsession, wasn't born in the Andes at all. Its roots lie far to the north, in the highland lakes of Colombia, where the Muisca people practiced a ritual that would ignite one of history's greatest treasure hunts. When a new Muisca ruler came to power, priests would coat his body in gold dust before he boarded a raft laden with offerings, emeralds, golden figurines, and other treasures. As the raft reached the center of Lake Guatavita, the gilded king would plunge into the waters, washing away the gold as an offering to the gods. To Spanish conquistadors who heard fragments of this story, it wasn't a sacred ceremony, it was proof of a kingdom dripping with riches, waiting to be claimed. The irony, by the time the legend reached the Andes, the truth had already been stretched beyond recognition. The Inca Empire did possess vast gold reserves, but their relationship with the metal was profoundly different. To them, gold wasn't currency, it was the sweat of the sun, a sacred material meant to adorn temples like Coricancha in Cusco, where walls blazed with golden panels that reflected sunlight into the sacred spaces. Spanish chroniclers wrote of life-sized cornstalks crafted from gold, statues of llamas with fleeces of hammered metal, and a garden where every flower, butterfly, and stem shimmered in precious ore. These weren't displays of wealth but acts of devotion, meant to honor Inti, the sun god whose light sustained all life. Yet when Francisco Pizarro and his men arrived in the 16th century, they saw only plunder. Coricancha was stripped bare, its golden treasures melted into ingots and shipped to Spain. The same fate befell the ransom of Atahualpa, the Inca emperor who filled a room with gold in exchange for his freedom, only to be executed anyway. The conquistadors' insatiable hunger for gold fueled atrocities across the continent, from the sacking of sacred sites to the enslavement of thousands. And still, the dream of El Dorado persisted, morphing from a Muisca ritual into a phantom city, then a hidden kingdom, luring expeditions deep into uncharted jungles where men died of disease, starvation, and their own folly. What makes this tragedy even sharper is how little the Europeans understood the true value of what they destroyed. For the Inca, gold's worth wasn't measured by weight but by its connection to the divine. A simple golden bead, shaped with care and offered with prayer, held more meaning than a chest of looted ingots. The real El Dorado wasn't a place, it was a worldview, one that saw the sacred in the land itself. And as the last traces of Inca gold vanished into the holds of Spanish galleons, something far more precious was lost, a civilization's voice, its stories, its way of seeing the world. But the darkest chapter of the conquest wasn't just the theft of gold, it was the erasure of people. The wars, forced labor, and diseases brought by the Spanish decimated indigenous populations, unraveling cultures that had flourished for millennia. The mountains, once alive with rituals and festivals, fell silent, and yet, against all odds, the Andes remember. In quiet villages, artisans still shape gold using ancient techniques, and farmers whisper prayers to the apus before planting. The myth of El Dorado endures, but the real treasure was never hidden. It's the resilience of those who still call these peaks home. The fall of the Inca Empire reads like a tragic play where betrayal, disease, and sheer audacity collided with devastating force. When Francisco Pizarro and his band of fewer than 200 conquistadors arrived in the 1530s, they found an empire already weakened by a brutal civil war. Brothers Atahualpa and Huascar had torn the realm apart fighting for the throne, leaving armies exhausted and allegiances fractured. Pizarro exploited this division with chilling precision. His infamous ambush at Cajamarca, where he captured Atahualpa despite being outnumbered, wasn't just a military victory. It was a psychological blow. The sight of their divine ruler, believed to be the son of the sun god, imprisoned by foreigners, shattered the Incas' sense of invincibility. But the Spanish didn't conquer alone. Deadlier than their swords were the diseases they unwittingly carried. Smallpox, measles, and influenza raced ahead of them, wiping out entire communities. Imagine a world where up to 90% of a population perishes within decades. Families, leaders, knowledge keepers all gone, leaving survivors scrambling to make sense of the devastation. The Incas' meticulously organized society, built on collective labor and shared purpose, crumbled under the weight of grief and chaos. Yet resistance flickered in the mountains. For nearly 40 years after the fall of Cusco, a defiant Neo-Inca state held out in Vilcabamba, the last redoubt of Inca royalty. Leaders like Manco Inca and Tupac Amaru became legends, orchestrating guerrilla attacks from hidden jungle strongholds. At one point, Manco's forces even laid siege to Cusco itself, proving the empire's spirit wasn't easily extinguished. But by 1572, the Spanish finally crushed Vilcabamba, executing Tupac Amaru in a public spectacle meant to erase all hope of revival. The cultural devastation ran deeper than battles. Spanish priests systematically dismantled indigenous beliefs, branding them as idolatry. Sacred huacas shrines carved into cliffs or spring-fed pools were smashed. Gold objects from temple adornments to ceremonial cups were melted into ingots. Even the quipus, the intricate knotted cords that may have held the empire's records and stories, were burned as pagan relics. It wasn't just wealth that vanished, it was memory itself, the very fabric of a civilization unraveling. But the mountains remember. Modern archaeologists working with indigenous communities are piecing together fragments of this suppressed history. In Vilcabamba, excavations revealed traces of the Neo-Inca state's final days, charred timbers from Spanish raids, hidden caches of pottery, even remnants of gardens where the last Inca nobles grew medicinal herbs. High-altitude drones and ground-penetrating radar are uncovering lost settlements beneath dense foliage, while oral histories passed down through generations offer clues no artifact can provide. Each discovery is an act of reclamation, a way to honor those who refused to let their world be forgotten. Perhaps the most poignant symbol of this resilience is the Huachuaca Bridge, a hand-woven grass suspension span rebuilt annually by Andean communities using Inca techniques. As villagers gather to braid new strands into the old, they're not just maintaining a bridge, they're weaving the past into the present, proving that some threads can never be fully severed. The conquest tried to silence the Andes, but the mountains still whisper their stories to those willing to listen. Modern technology is peeling back the layers of time in the Andes, revealing secrets that even the most determined explorers of past centuries could never uncover. Drones equipped with high-resolution cameras now soar over dense jungle canopies and jagged ridges, capturing images that unveil hidden structures invisible from the ground. In 2018, aerial surveys uncovered a sprawling network of circular stone foundations in Peru's Chachapoya region, likely remnants of a lost settlement swallowed by vegetation centuries ago. These discoveries aren't just rewriting maps, they're reshaping our understanding of how ancient cultures interacted with these impossible landscapes. Equally groundbreaking is the use of LiDAR, a laser scanning technology that penetrates thick foliage to map the ground beneath. In the Amazon foothills, LiDAR revealed vast geometric earthworks and raised causeways, evidence of sophisticated societies that thrived where historians once assumed only small tribes existed. But perhaps the most startling finds come from the ice. As climate change melts glaciers, long-frozen artifacts emerge. Textiles so well preserved their dyes still shimmer, wooden ritual objects untouched by decay, and even the remains of sacrifices like Juanita, the Ice Maiden, discovered on Mount Ampoto in 1995. Her frozen body, clad in ceremonial robes and surrounded by offerings, offers a heartbreakingly intimate glimpse into Inca spiritual life. Science doesn't stop at uncovering artifacts, it's decoding their stories. DNA analysis of ancient skeletons traces migration patterns, revealing how groups like the Weri and Tiwanaku influenced the Inca centuries before their rise. Isotope testing on teeth tells us where individuals grew up, proving some traveled hundreds of miles before their deaths, hints of pilgrimage, trade, or even forced relocation. Yet for all these high-tech tools, the real breakthroughs often come from collaboration with indigenous communities. Quechua elders share oral histories that pinpoint forgotten ceremonial sites, while Aymara weavers help decipher patterns in ancient textiles, each thread a coded message about identity and belief. This partnership between past and present is unlocking mysteries at an unprecedented pace. Just last year, archaeologists working with local farmers in Bolivia unearthed a sealed tomb containing gold ornaments and intricately carved wooden staffs, a burial untouched since the Tiwanaku era. Meanwhile, in Ecuador, scans beneath a colonial church revealed the foundations of an Inca sun temple, its alignment matching solstice sunrises. Every discovery feels like recovering a lost page from history, one that reminds us how much remains hidden beneath our feet. But for all we've learned, the Andes still guard their deepest enigmas. Some ruins defy explanation, their purpose as mysterious as the hands that built them. Others whisper of technologies and knowledge that challenge what we thought possible. As the next generation of explorers ventures into these peaks, armed with both satellites and ancestral wisdom, one truth becomes clear: the past isn't finished speaking. And the most thrilling chapters may still lie ahead. Even after centuries of study, the Andes still guard mysteries that defy explanation, artifacts and sites so perplexing they challenge everything we think we know about ancient civilizations. Take the quipus, for example. These intricate knotted cords, often made of cotton or llama wool, were far more than decorative. They were the Incas' answer to written records. Some experts believe they tracked taxes, census data, or even military movements. Others argue they encoded stories, poems, or sacred knowledge. But despite decades of research, no one has fully cracked their code. A few tantalizing clues exist. The position, color, and type of knot might represent numbers or categories, and some quipus even have pendant cords branching off like a family tree. Yet the full system remains just out of reach, a language without a Rosetta Stone. Imagine holding one of these cords, feeling the texture of centuries-old fibers, knowing they contain secrets we're only beginning to grasp. Then there's the doorway of Amaru Muru, a smooth rectangular niche carved into a sheer rock face near Lake Titicaca. Local legends say it's a portal to another world, opened only for the chosen. Some claim priests vanished through it during the Spanish conquest, carrying sacred relics to safety. Others whisper that on certain nights, the doorway glows with an eerie light. Archaeologists offer more practical theories. Perhaps it was an unfinished tomb or a ceremonial space, but none fully explain why such precise craftsmanship exists in this remote location. The mystery deepens when you consider the surrounding area, strange depressions in the rock that align with solstices, and carvings that resemble constellations. Was this a spiritual gateway or something even science can't yet explain? Down in the sacred valley, the circular terraces of morae stretch like giant stone amphitheaters into the earth. Their purpose is equally enigmatic. Some researchers think they were agricultural laboratories, with each level creating a different microclimate to test crop varieties. The temperature varies by as much as 20 degrees from top to bottom, supporting this theory, but others point to their perfect symmetry and alignment with celestial events, suggesting they served as open-air temples or even models of the Inca cosmos. The truth might be a blend of both science and spirituality intertwined, as they often were in the Andes. And what of the rumors of vast underground tunnels said to connect sacred sites across the empire? Spanish chronicles mention hidden passages beneath Cusco, while modern explorers have found strange cavities beneath sites like Sacsayhuaman. Could these be natural formations or evidence of a network deliberately carved into the earth? Without more proof, they remain the stuff of legend. Yet perhaps the greatest key to these mysteries lies not in artifacts or ruins, but in the living voices of the Andes. Quechua elders still recount stories passed down through generations, tales of hero kings, mountain spirits, and celestial battles that echo ancient beliefs. These oral traditions, once dismissed as folklore, are now recognized as vital threads in the tapestry of history. When a shaman describes a ceremony performed the same way for 1,000 years, or a weaver explains patterns that mirror those on pre-Columbian textiles, we're glimpsing a thread of continuity that no conquest could fully sever. The mountains may keep their secrets, but they also whisper them to those who know how to listen. High in the Andes, where thin air carries whispers across generations, the Quechua people keep alive a tradition as old as the mountains themselves: oral storytelling. These narratives, passed down through countless evenings by firelight, aren't just tales, they're living threads connecting the present to the world of the Inca. Elders speak of Pachacuti not just as a historical ruler, but as a cyclical force, a promise that one day order will be restored and the empire will rise again. This prophecy, woven into songs and rituals, blurs the line between history and myth, reminding listeners that time in the Andes moves in spirals, not straight lines. One particularly poignant story tells of a sealed cave near Cusco, said to hold the treasures of the Inca until the day they're needed to rebuild their kingdom. Another recounts how the spirits of ancestral rulers still walk the mountains, their presence felt in sudden gusts of wind or the distant rumble of falling rocks. These aren't mere legends, they're a way of encoding survival. During the darkest years of Spanish rule, when written Quechua was banned and ceremonies driven underground, these stories preserved forbidden knowledge. The rhythm of planting seasons, the locations of hidden springs, even the stars' guidance for navigation, all were tucked into metaphors and allegories, disguised as folklore to escape colonial scrutiny. Today, linguists and anthropologists race to record these narratives before they vanish. Projects like the Quechua Oral Tradition Archive train community members to document elders' stories, not as frozen artifacts, but as evolving traditions. One team recently mapped how a single tale about a mountain spirit shifted over decades, once a warning to avoid sacred peaks, now a parable about environmental conservation. This adaptability is key to their endurance. When a Quechua grandmother teaches her granddaughter to weave patterns that mirror Inca-era textiles, or when a farmer times his harvest by the same celestial signals his ancestors used, they're not performing history, they're continuing it. For travelers drawn to the Andes, engaging with these traditions requires respect and reciprocity. Visiting villages like Chinchero or Ollantaytambo during festivals offers a glimpse into this living history, but participation is a privilege, not a photo op. Workshops led by local cooperatives, where visitors learn to weave or farm using traditional methods, ensure knowledge is shared on the community's terms. Even small gestures matter. Buying a hand-spun scarf directly from the artisan or asking permission before photographing a ceremony acknowledges these traditions as more than curiosities. They're the heartbeat of a culture that refused to be silenced. As the modern world presses closer, these stories face new challenges: young people migrating to cities, Quechua languages fading from daily use. Yet in remote valleys, you might still hear a child recite the deeds of Manco Inca or catch the scent of coca leaves scattered in an offering to the Apus. The mountains remember, and so do their people, and in that remembering lies a quiet defiance, a promise that no conquest, no passage of time can sever the bond between a people and their land. Standing on the sunlit terraces of Machu Picchu or gazing up at the snow-capped Apus, it's easy to feel like a visitor stepping into a postcard-perfect moment. But these landscapes aren't just backdrops. They're someone's home, someone's history, alive with traditions that stretch back centuries. Ethical tourism in the Andes isn't about checking off bucket list sites. It's about recognizing that every footstep on an ancient trail, every interaction with a local artisan carries weight. The choices travelers make can either nourish these communities or unintentionally erode the very culture they've come to admire. One of the simplest yet most impactful decisions. Hiring indigenous guides, Quechua-speaking locals don't just recite memorized facts. They share stories passed down through generations, point out medicinal plants hidden in the undergrowth, and explain how their ancestors built terraces that still stand today. In places like the Lares Valley or the community-run lodges of the Cueros Nation, these guides are reclaiming their narrative, transforming tourism from extraction to exchange. The ripple effects are profound. Wages stay within the community, children see value in preserving their language, and visitors gain insights no textbook could offer. Sacred sites demand particular reverence. The Inca didn't distinguish between the spiritual and the everyday. Their temples, mountains, and even springs were woven into a living cosmology. At ruins like Ollantaytambo or the less visited Huacrapucara, that means following posted guidelines isn't just about rules, it's about respect. Walking off path to snap a photo might seem harmless, but it risks damaging fragile structures or unknowingly trampling unmarked graves. Even well-intentioned gestures like leaving coins or trinkets as offerings can introduce pollutants to delicate ecosystems. Instead, travelers can participate in sanctioned rituals led by local spiritual leaders, such as coca leaf readings or blessings for safe journeys, experiences that honor tradition without appropriating it. Photography poses its own ethical dilemmas. That elderly weaver in her vibrant Polaris skirt isn't a prop, her craft is a livelihood. In bustling markets like Pisac, always ask permission before raising a camera and consider buying a small item as gratitude. Better yet, seek out cooperatives like the Centro de Textiles Tradicionales del Cusco, where artisans demonstrate their techniques and explain the symbolism behind each pattern. These interactions shift the dynamic from observation to connection, reminding us that cultural heritage isn't a spectacle, it's a shared human experience. Sustainable tourism also means confronting the shadow of over-tourism. While Machu Picchu's daily visitor caps help, lesser-known alternatives like Choqquequirao or the pre-Inca ruins of Cailap offer equally awe-inspiring moments without the crowds. Homestays in villages like Amaru or Pachacuti redistribute tourism dollars directly to families, funding schools and preserving farming traditions. Even meal choices matter. Opting for restaurants that source ingredients from local growers supports agricultural knowledge honed over millennia. For those dreaming of an Andean adventure, preparation is key. Learn a few Quechua phrases: a simple Alalanchu hello or Solpeki, thank you bridges gaps. Pack reusable water bottles to reduce plastic waste in remote areas where landfills don't exist. Choose gear companies that partner with indigenous porters, ensuring fair wages and proper equipment. And most importantly, travel slowly. The Andes reveal their deepest truths not to those who rush from photo op to photo op, but to those who pause long enough to listen, to the wind over the stones, to the stories of the people, to the quiet pulse of a land that has witnessed empires rise and fall. Because in the end, the greatest souvenir isn't a trinket or a snapshot. It's the certainty that your journey left these mountains and their people stronger than you found them. Embarking on a trek through the Andes is like stepping into a world where the air thins, the landscapes astound, and every step demands respect for the mountain's power. Preparation here isn't just about packing the right gear. It's about understanding your body's limits and the environment's unpredictability. Start with acclimatization. Arriving in Cusco or another high-altitude hub at least 2 days before your hike lets your body adjust gradually. Drink coca tea, a local remedy that eases altitude symptoms, and resist the urge to push too hard too soon. Headaches and dizziness are warning signs. Ignoring them can lead to serious altitude sickness. Smart trekkers plan shorter initial hikes to nearby ruins like Sacsayhuaman, testing their stamina while soaking in history. Packing for the Andes is an exercise in balancing weight and necessity. Layers are your best friend. Mornings can dawn with icy winds, while midday sun burns fiercely at these elevations. A moisture-wicking base layer, insulated jacket, and waterproof shell are non-negotiable. Sturdy broken-in boots with ankle support prevent slips on uneven trails, and quality trekking poles save knees during steep descents. Don't skimp on sunscreen and lip balm. UV rays here are relentless. A refillable water bottle or hydration bladder is crucial, as dehydration worsens altitude effects. Local guides often recommend carrying snacks like nuts or chocolate for quick energy boosts when the trail gets grueling. Weather in the Andes shifts faster than a condor's dive. One moment you're basking in sunshine, the next a fog bank rolls in, reducing visibility to arm's length. Always check forecasts, but pack for every scenario. Rain gear, a warm hat, and gloves can turn a miserable slog into a manageable adventure. Trails like the Salcantay Trek, a stunning alternative to the crowded Inca Trail, showcase glacial peaks and cloud forests but demand extra preparation. At altitudes exceeding 15,000 feet, snow isn't uncommon, even in the dry season. Choosing the right route is half the battle. While Machu Picchu draws the masses, quieter paths like the Lares Trek weave through traditional Quechua villages, offering hot springs and textile markets far from the tourist bustle. The Osengate Circuit, circling a sacred peak, rewards intrepid hikers with rainbow-colored mountains and turquoise lagoons, but demands solid fitness and acclimatization. For those short on time, day hikes from Cusco to sites like Huachay Cosco deliver breathtaking views without multi-day commitments. Every Andean adventure hinges on respecting the mountain's rhythms. Listen to your body, heed local advice, and remember, the journey isn't a race. These trails were walked by generations who understood that patience and preparation unlock the Andes' greatest gifts. And as you catch your breath atop a misty pass, knowing what lies ahead, the hidden landmarks, the whispers of history, you'll realize the real trek has only just begun. While Machu Picchu rightly claims the spotlight, the Andes cradle countless other wonders where history and landscape collide just as powerfully, without the crowds. Take Vinicunca, the so-called Rainbow Mountain, where mineral-rich sediments have painted the slopes in surreal stripes of lavender, turquoise, and rust. This natural masterpiece sat hidden under ice until warming temperatures revealed it barely a decade ago, making it a geological newborn compared to the region's ancient ruins. Hiking here at dawn, when alpacas graze the high pastures and the colors glow under soft light, feels like stepping onto another planet. Just remember, the trail climbs above 16,000 feet, so pacing yourself is as crucial as packing a camera. Locals recommend arriving before 8 a.m., when the morning mist lifts and tour buses are still winding up the valley. For those craving history with a side of drama, few sites rival Ollantaytambo's fortress-like terraces. This wasn't just another Inca settlement. It was a strategic stronghold where Manco Inca's warriors hurled boulders down on Spanish troops, buying time for the empire's last rulers to retreat into the jungle. Today, climbing its steep staircases rewards you with panoramic views of the Urubamba Valley and a glimpse of the original town layout below, its grid of cobbled streets and irrigation channels unchanged since the 15th century. Pro tip: visit in the late afternoon when most tour groups have left and the golden light sets the pink granite walls ablaze. Then there's Choqquequirao, Machu Picchu's rugged sister city, accessible only by a 4-day trek through cloud forests and across swinging cable bridges. Its terraces, studded with white stone llamas that shimmer in the sunlight, cascade down the mountainside like a staircase for giants. With fewer than 20 visitors a day, you'll often have the ruins to yourself. Just you, the condors circling overhead, and the echoes of a civilization that once ruled these peaks. After days spent exploring, the Andes offer another kind of treasure, a culinary tradition as rich as its archaeology. In the Sacred Valley, local chefs are reviving ancient ingredients like quinoa, purple corn, and succulent Kai guinea pig, once reserved for Inca royalty. Street vendors sell humitas sweet corn cakes steamed in husks, while high-end restaurants fuse colonial techniques with pre-Hispanic flavors. For the ultimate experience, time your visit to Pisac's Sunday Market, where farmers from remote villages bring heirloom potatoes in hues of blue and pink, and grandmothers serve steaming bowls of chero, a hearty lamb stew that sustained highland families for generations. Whether you're tasting millennia of tradition in a single bite or standing alone atop a forgotten citadel, these hidden gems remind us that the Andes' true magic lies beyond the postcard sites. Here, every valley holds a story, every meal a connection to the past, and the best adventures begin where the crowds end. To taste Andean cuisine is to take a bite out of history itself, where every ingredient carries the legacy of empires and the resilience of mountain communities. Start with quinoa. This golden grain wasn't just a staple for the Inca. It was sacred, dubbed the mother seed for its ability to thrive where other crops failed. Packed with protein and grown at altitudes over 12,000 feet, it fueled warriors and builders alike. Today, you'll find it transformed into creamy porridge or crisp salads in Cusco's cafes, but its roots trace back to ceremonial offerings where handfuls were scattered to honor Pachamama, the earth goddess. Then there's the potato, domesticated in these very highlands over 7,000 years ago. The Inca cultivated more than 4,000 varieties, from knobby purple tubers to frost-resistant bitter strains perfected for freeze-drying into chuño, a lightweight survival food that sustained armies and traders on long journeys. Modern visitors can taste this ingenuity in dishes like papa a la huancaina, boiled potatoes smothered in a spicy cheese sauce, a colonial-era twist on ancient ingredients. But to truly grasp its cultural weight, join a farmer in the Sacred Valley during harvest, where potatoes are still blessed with coca leaves and songs passed down through generations. For a more adventurous palate, few dishes spark curiosity like Kai or guinea pig. Raised in household kitchens since pre-Columbian times, these small animals were more than food. Their entrails were red as omens, and their roasted bodies served at weddings and festivals as symbols of prosperity. Try it grilled whole, the skin crackling with herbs, or in a rich stew with peanuts and aji peppers. The flavor, closer to rabbit than chicken, with a richness that speaks to its role as a protein source in regions too harsh for larger livestock. But the soul of Andean cooking lies in its methods. Pachacuti, meaning earth pot, is a feast cooked underground on hot stones, layered with marinated meats, tubers, and corn, then covered with aromatic herbs and soil to slow roast for hours. This isn't just cooking, it's a ritual echoing Inca harvest celebrations, where food was returned to the earth before being shared in gratitude. Modern pachamancas often begin with a ceremonial toast of chicha, the fermented corn beer once sipped from golden cups during rites honoring the sun god. Speaking of chicha, no culinary journey is complete without tasting this frothy, slightly tangy brew. Purple chicha, made from heirloom maize, carries a sweetness balanced by weeks of fermentation, a process so revered that Inca-chosen women, the Aclas, oversaw its production in temple courtyards. Pair it with a bowl of chero, a hearty soup of lamb, barley, and Andean mint that sustained highland families through freezing nights for centuries. These flavors come alive most vividly during festivals like Inti Raymi, the Sun Festival, where platters of roast kai and baskets of quinoa bread are offered to the sky before becoming communal feasts. Or at Culinary, where pilgrims bundle frozen potatoes in their coats to thaw later over campfires beneath glacial peaks. Every bite, every sip, is a thread connecting past to present proof that in the Andes, food isn't just sustenance. It's memory, resistance, and celebration, served on a plate carved by time. The streets of Cusco explode in a riot of gold and crimson every June during Inti Raymi, the Festival of the Sun, a spectacle so vibrant it feels like stepping into a living tapestry. Originally marking the winter solstice in Inca times, this celebration honored Inti, the sun god, with days of feasting, music, and sacrifices to ensure his return and the coming harvest. Today, the festival has evolved into a breathtaking fusion of past and present. Hundreds of performers in elaborate woolen tunics and feathered headdresses reenact ancient ceremonies atop Sacsayhuaman's stone terraces, their chants echoing across the valley as they offer symbolic gifts of chicha and coca leaves. Yet walk through the Plaza de Armas afterward, and you'll find equally fervent processions honoring Corpus Christi, where saint statues draped in finery are paraded alongside Quechua musicians playing traditional harps. This isn't contradiction, it's cultural alchemy, a testament to how Andean communities have woven Catholic traditions into their ancestral cosmology without erasing its roots. For travelers, timing a visit around these festivals offers more than photo opportunities. It's a masterclass in cultural endurance. During Culinary, held under the glacial light of Mount Orsangate, thousands of pilgrims clad in shimmering costumes dance for days at 15,000 feet, blending prayers to the Christ child with offerings to the mountain spirits. The Virgin of Carmen in Paucartambo turns the town into a whirlwind of masked devils and brass bands, where the line between sacred theater and spiritual catharsis blurs. Even local markets pulse with seasonal rituals. In the weeks before Inti Raymi, vendors sell miniature household items made of bread, a colonial-era twist on Inca-era miniatures once buried as offerings. What unites these celebrations is their celestial heartbeat. The Inca didn't just observe the stars, they lived by them, building temples aligned with solstices and tracking constellations to guide planting and harvest. Modern festivals still echo this rhythm. At Moray's circular terraces, believed to be an agricultural laboratory, locals reenact lunar ceremonies during the September equinox, lighting torches that spiral downward like falling stars. In remote villages, healers perform despacho ceremonies under the Milky Way, folding offerings into paper bundles to carry prayers to the apus. These aren't performances for tourists, they're acts of remembrance, a way of keeping the cosmos woven into daily life. To witness these traditions is to understand how the Andes defy simple categories. The same hands that knead communion wafers also shape coca leaf offerings. The same voices that sing hymns to saints recount myths of mountain deities. Here, the sky isn't just above, it's within, a living presence in every festival drumbeat and every farmer's glance toward the horizon. And as the last notes of a panpipe fade into the thin highland air, you're left with a truth as clear as the Andean night. Some connections can't be broken, only transformed. The night skies over the Andes weren't just a canvas of stars to the Inca, they were a sacred clock, a map, and a divine manuscript all in one. High above Machu Picchu, the Intihuatana stone, often called the hitching post of the sun, stands as a testament to their celestial mastery. Carved with precision, this granite pillar casts no shadow at solar noon during the equinoxes, a silent signal that the sun hangs directly overhead. But its purpose went far beyond marking seasons. On the winter solstice, sunlight would strike the stone at an angle that illuminated hidden carvings, turning the entire site into a solar observatory. Nearby, the Temple of the Sun's trapezoidal window frames the rising sun during June's solstice, flooding the interior with a beam of light that aligns perfectly with an altar stone, a spectacle modern visitors still witness with awe. This astronomical wisdom wasn't confined to grand temples. Across the empire, humble farming communities used star clusters to time planting and harvests. The Pleiades, known as Kulka or the storehouse, were particularly vital. When these stars appeared bright and clear in May, farmers knew the coming growing season would be abundant. A dim or hazy appearance signaled drought, prompting them to plant drought-resistant crops like quinoa. Even today, Quechua elders scan the skies for these cues, blending ancient knowledge with modern weather forecasts. For travelers, the Andes offer some of the clearest stargazing on Earth. The high altitude, dry air, and minimal light pollution create conditions so pristine that constellations seem within reach. Near Lake Titicaca, the Altiplano's vast plains transform into an open-air planetarium, where the Milky Way stretches like a luminous river. Local guides share not just the science of the stars, but the stories how the Inca saw the dark patches of the galaxy as celestial animals, or how the Southern Cross pointed the way to sacred sites. Some tour operators even pair telescope viewings with traditional music and hot drinks brewed from native herbs, merging astronomy with cultural immersion. Yet these skies are more than a window to the past, they're a mirror reflecting urgent modern challenges. As climate change alters weather patterns and light pollution creeps into remote valleys, the very knowledge that once thrived here faces new threats. The next chapter of the Andean story isn't just about preserving ruins or rituals. It's about safeguarding an entire relationship between earth and sky, one that has guided these mountains for millennia. And as the stars turn overhead, their silent testimony reminds us that some connections are too vital to lose. The glaciers of the Andes are vanishing at an alarming rate, their ancient ice retreating under the relentless pressure of rising temperatures. Over the past 50 years, Peru has lost more than half of its glacial surface, with iconic peaks like Pastoruri shrinking by nearly 40%. These frozen reservoirs aren't just scenic backdrops, they're vital water sources for millions downstream, feeding rivers that sustain farms, cities, and ecosystems. When they disappear, entire regions face drought, forcing communities to abandon ancestral lands or compete for dwindling resources. Archaeologists racing to document artifacts emerging from the melting ice face a bittersweet reality. every newfound mummy or textile is a sign of a climate crisis accelerating beyond control. Mining operations carve another deep wound into these mountains. Gold, copper, and lithium extraction scar the landscape, leaching toxic chemicals into waterways and displacing indigenous communities. The Conga mine controversy in northern Peru revealed the human-cost protests against water pollution met with violence, leaving scars on both land and people. Yet alternatives exist. Some cooperatives now combine traditional Quechua mining techniques with modern safeguards, using gravity-based methods to reduce chemical use while providing fair wages. These small-scale efforts prove that responsible extraction is possible, though far from the norm. Over-tourism, too, leaves its mark. Machu Picchu's stone pathways, built to last centuries, now show wear from millions of footsteps. The Inca Trail's fragile ecosystem battles erosion and litter, while nearby villages grapple with overcrowded infrastructure. But change is brewing. Community-led initiatives like the Lairs Trek redirect visitors to less frequented routes, spreading economic benefits while protecting overburdened sites. Lodges built with local materials and solar power, like those in the Choqquequirao region, set new standards for low-impact travel. Even simple choices carrying reusable bottles or hiring indigenous guides help turn tourism from a threat into a force for preservation. Grassroots conservation efforts offer hope. In the cloud forests of Ecuador, villagers replant native trees to revive watersheds, creating corridors for endangered spectacled bears. Near Lake Titicaca, Aymara women weave plastic waste into sturdy bags, transforming pollution into livelihood. Scientists partner with Quechua elders to record glacial melt patterns, blending satellite data with oral history to predict water shortages. These projects prove that protecting the Andes isn't just about policy, it's about people. Paradoxically, climate change also unveils hidden chapters of Andean history. As ice retreats, artifacts emerge perfectly preserved Inca sandals still supple after 500 years, feathered headdresses with colors undimmed by time. Each discovery is a race against decay. Once exposed to air, organic materials can crumble within days. Teams now patrol melting glaciers, rescuing relics before they're lost to sun and rain. These finds rewrite history, a child's toy here, a ceremonial cup there whispering stories of daily life no chronicle ever recorded. The lesson is clear: the Andes endure, but they need allies. Whether by supporting fair trade textiles, choosing eco-conscious tour operators, or amplifying indigenous voices in climate debates, every action counts. This landscape, forged by tectonic fire and human ingenuity, now faces its greatest test. Yet in the hands of those who cherish it, the mountain's next chapter could be one of resilience, a testament to what happens when we listen to the earth instead of taking from it. And sometimes listening begins with the past speaking through the ice. The retreating glaciers of the Andes are revealing secrets frozen in time, artifacts so perfectly preserved they seem to defy the passage of centuries. As the ice melts, delicate textiles emerge with colors still vibrant, their intricate patterns telling stories of craftsmanship lost to history. Wooden tools, untouched by decay, bear the marks of hands that shaped them long before the Spanish conquest. Even everyday items, a child's woven sandal, a bundle of coca leaves tied with a cord, offer intimate glimpses into lives lived high in these sacred peaks. But this archaeological gold rush comes with urgency. Once exposed to air and sunlight, organic materials that survived for 500 years in ice can crumble within days, leaving researchers racing against time to document and preserve them. Among the most haunting discoveries are the frozen mummies of Inca children, sacrificed atop volcanoes like Ampoto and Lulaloco. These young messengers, known as Pachacuti offerings, were chosen for their purity and dressed in fine garments before their ritual journey to the gods. The cold, dry air preserved them with eerie perfection, their faces still serene, their ceremonial cloaks intact, surrounded by gold figurines and delicate pottery. Scientists examining their remains have uncovered traces of chicha and coca in their systems, clues to the ceremonial meals that preceded their final sleep. These finds aren't just relics, they're windows into a spiritual world where mountains were bridges between earth and heaven. Yet the urgency of these discoveries is matched by their fragility. A team working on Mount Serra Serra spent weeks camped at 19,000 feet, painstakingly recording a burial site before meltwater could wash it away. Another group in the Cordillera Blanca developed a method to 3D scan exposed artifacts in minutes, creating digital backups before the originals disintegrate. Local communities, too, are stepping in. Quechua elders share oral histories that help archaeologists interpret finds, while young activists use social media to spotlight threatened sites. What makes these melting glaciers bittersweet is the duality they reveal. Each thawing patch of ice uncovers both tragedy and triumph, the loss of ancient ice archives, but also the recovery of voices silenced by time. A frozen bundle of quinoa seeds hints at agricultural wisdom that could aid modern crops in a warming world. A carved wooden staff, its symbol still undeciphered, might hold clues to forgotten astronomical knowledge. These artifacts remind us that the legacy of Andean cultures isn't confined to history books. It's woven into the very fabric of the mountains, waiting to be rediscovered by those who listen closely. And as the ice retreats, the peaks whisper their stories with newfound urgency, urging us to preserve not just their treasures, but the living traditions that still echo in the valleys below. To touch an Andean textile is to hold history in your hands, thread by thread, color by color. These fabrics weave together centuries of tradition. The Inca called their finest cloth campi, a luxury reserved for royalty and rituals, spun from vicuña wool so soft it felt like clouds. But these weren't just garments, they were narratives. A single tunic could tell a warrior's deeds through geometric patterns, its zigzag borders mimicking mountain peaks, while diamond motifs symbolized the union of earth and sky. Even the dyes held secrets: red from cochineal insects, blue from indigo, yellow from Andean flowers, each hue a testament to the weaver's intimacy with the land. Today, in remote villages like Chinchero, those same symbols endure. A modern huipil might feature the same stepped crosses worn by Inca priestesses, its threads dyed using ancestral recipes passed down through generations. The loom itself is a bridge across time. Many Quechua women still weave on backstrap looms, their bodies becoming part of the device as they lean forward and back, guiding the threads with rhythmic precision. The process is slow. A single piece can take months, but every knot carries intention. Some patterns map constellations, guiding the wearer like celestial maps. Others depict animals sacred to Andean cosmology: condors for vision, pumas for strength, serpents for wisdom. In Pachacuti, elders teach children that weaving isn't just craft, it's prayer. When a textile is finished, it's often blessed with coca leaves or sprinkled with chicha, honoring Pachamama for the materials and the skill to shape them. Cooperatives like the Centro de Textiles Tradicionales del Cusco are rewriting the future of this ancient art. By connecting weavers directly to global markets, they're ensuring fair wages and preserving techniques once at risk of vanishing. Visitors to these workshops don't just buy souvenirs, they witness the alchemy of raw wool transforming into art, hearing stories of how a grandmother's signature pattern became her granddaughter's inheritance. The impact ripples beyond economics. When a tourist pays $50 for a hand-woven belt instead of $5 for a factory-made knockoff, they're voting for a world where tradition has value. As the sun sets over the sacred valley, the rhythm of the loom gives way to another echo of the past, the haunting notes of a wooden quina flute. Music in the Andes is as layered as the textiles, with panpipes mimicking wind through canyon walls and drums keeping time like a heartbeat. Festivals like Inti Raymi erupt with the clash of charangos, their armadillo shell bodies strummed into joyous frenzy. But the most profound melodies are the simplest, a shepherd's tune carried on the wind, or the hum of women singing as they weave, their voices weaving yet another kind of thread into the tapestry of these mountains. The legacy of the Andes isn't locked in museums, it's alive, breathing, and still being created, one stitch, one note at a time. The haunting melody of a panpipe cuts through the thin Andean air, its notes trembling like wind over stone, a sound unchanged for thousands of years. These sacred instruments, known as sikas or zamponias, were never mere entertainment to the Inca. Crafted from reeds harvested at precise lunar phases, their dual pipe design embodied the concept of yanantin, the Andean principle of complementary opposites. Played in interlocking pairs, one musician breathlessly finishing the phrase another began. The music mirrored the harmony of community labor, of terraced fields meeting sky. Today, those same rhythms pulse through village festivals, where dancers in feathered headdresses step to the cadence their ancestors once followed under the watchful gaze of the Apus. Yet the Andes' musical tapestry stretches far beyond ancient rites. Enter the charango, a small, 10-stringed instrument born from colonial resistance. When Spanish rulers banned indigenous music, Quechua craftsmen fashioned this lute-like creation from an unexpected material, the shell of an armadillo. Its bright, percussive tone became a sonic rebellion, weaving traditional melodies with European scales. Modern charangos, now often carved from wood, still carry that defiant spirit. Street musicians in Cusco pluck out Hueno's folk songs of love and loss, while activist bands fuse its sound with electric guitars, turning ancestral stories into protest anthems against mining and deforestation. Language lives in these melodies too. Quechua and Aymara, once suppressed, now flourish in song lyrics passed down through generations. In remote highland schools, children learn multiplication tables through call and response tunes in their mother tongue. When singer Renata Flores reimagined Michael Jackson's "The Way You Make Me Feel" in Quechua over a hip-hop beat, the viral sensation proved tradition could dance with modernity without losing its soul. Even the rhythm patterns tell a story. The way a Hueno's uneven meter mimics the irregular footsteps of llamas climbing steep trails, or how a carnival's talk flute imitates the cry of a mountain bird. This sonic evolution mirrors the Andes themselves, layered, resilient, ever adapting. From the ceremonial Pitutus conch shell trumpets that still summon villagers to meetings, to the synth-infused sounds of Lim as underground Andean step DJs, the mountain's voice refuses to be silenced. As the last notes of a nighttime Harawi love song fade into the stars, they leave behind a question not of what was lost, but of what persists. And that very persistence becomes its own kind of prayer, one that leads us, quite naturally, into the spiritual heartbeat of these peaks. In the thin air of the high Andes, where the veil between worlds feels as fragile as morning mist, shamans known as pocos move as living bridges between the physical and spiritual realms. These wisdom keepers, trained through decades of apprenticeship, read the language of coca leaves scattered like emerald constellations across woven cloth, each configuration a message from the Apus, the mountain spirits who shape destinies. A despacho ceremony unfolds with the precision of a sacred geometry, flower petals, candies, and tiny llama fat figurines arranged on paper, then folded into a prayer bundle and offered to the earth with whispered invocations. This isn't performance, it's a dialogue with the cosmos, a reciprocity passed down since the Inca whispered to glaciers. Yet these traditions face a modern paradox. As global seekers flock to the Andes for spiritual awakening, the line between reverence and appropriation blurs. A tourist snapping selfies during a private offering ceremony, or a foreigner claiming shamanic titles after a weekend retreat, risks reducing centuries of lineage into a commodity. True respect begins with understanding that these practices aren't aesthetics, they're the lifeblood of communities surviving conquest and climate chaos. Visiting a Paco isn't about collecting exotic experiences, it's about sitting humbly on hard earth, accepting that some mysteries aren't meant to be owned. Remarkably, these ancient rituals are finding new resonance in unexpected places. Western psychologists study how coca leaf readings create meditative focus, while environmentalists adopt the despacho's ethos of gratitude to reframe humanity's relationship with nature. In Cusco's clinics, doctors now collaborate with Pacos, blending antibiotics with herbal brews of Munya for altitude sickness. The lesson is clear: healing isn't about choosing between tradition and modernity, but weaving them together like the threads of a finely balanced loom. As the sun dips behind Osengate, turning snow to liquid gold, a Paco might tell you that the greatest medicine isn't in the leaves or the prayers, it's in remembering that every mountain, every person, is part of the same living story. And perhaps that's the offering this moment needs most. At the heart of Inca cosmology lies a simple but radical idea that every action, from planting a seed to building an empire, exists within a web of reciprocity known as Aine. This wasn't just a philosophy, it was the rhythm of daily life. Farmers offered coca leaves to the earth before tilling soil, knowing the land would reciprocate with bounty. Shepherds whispered prayers to mountain spirits while their llamas grazed, trusting protection would flow both ways. Even grand ceremonies like the Pachacuti sacrifices were rooted in this balance, a life given to the Apus in exchange for water, fertility, and harmony. The Inca understood what modern ecology now confirms, that no thread in nature's tapestry exists in isolation. The resonance of Aine in today's sustainability movements is undeniable. In the Andes, indigenous communities still practice barter systems like the truque, where villagers exchange potatoes for quinoa at high-altitude fairs without a single coin changing hands. Beyond the mountains, the principle echoes in regenerative agriculture, where farmers enrich soil rather than deplete it, and in circular economies that prioritize reuse over waste. Scientists studying ancient terraces have found their layered drainage systems prevent erosion far better than modern plowing, proof that reciprocity with the land isn't just ethical, it's ingenious. When climate activists speak of giving back to the earth, they're channeling a worldview the Inca perfected centuries ago. Mindfulness in the Andes wears many faces. Consider the despacho ceremony, where every offering, a pinch of corn, a sprig of herbs, is placed with deliberate gratitude. Modern adaptations of this ritual invite participants to write intentions on paper, folding them into bundles alongside symbolic gifts as reminders that intention shapes impact. Or take the Quechua practice of Hewarikai, pausing at mountain passes to place a stone on a cairn, both as thanks for safe passage and a plea for future journeys. These aren't relics of the past, they're living templates for slowing down in an over-caffeinated world. Urban dwellers from Lima to London now adopt variations, stacking small stones on office desks as tactile prompts to breathe deeply between tasks. The future of Andean heritage flickers brightest where tradition and innovation dance together. In Cusco's universities, engineering students collaborate with elders to adapt ancient hydraulic systems for modern water scarcity. Textile cooperatives embed QR codes in woven belts, linking buyers to videos of the artisans and their stories, bridging global markets while preserving craft. Even space agencies take notes. NASA studies how Inca builders designed earthquake-proof walls as they plan lunar habitats. The mountain's greatest lesson might be this: wisdom isn't frozen in time. Like the glaciers that melt only to nourish new valleys, the past's most vital gifts aren't meant to be preserved under glass, but to flow, adapt, and sustain the generations still climbing. The future of Andean heritage isn't written in stone. It's being woven, coded, and reclaimed by a new generation of activists, artists, and scholars who refuse to let their past become a museum exhibit. In Cusco's bustling Plaza San Blas, 23-year-old Quechua rapper Liberato Cani fires off verses in his ancestral tongue over trap beats, turning ancient creation myths into viral anthems for smartphone-toting teens. Across the border in Bolivia, Aymara women live-stream traditional weaving techniques on TikTok, their nimble fingers flying across backstrap looms while thousands of global viewers pepper the comments with heart emojis and questions about symbolism. This isn't just preservation, it's revolution by hashtag, proving indigenous identity can thrive in the digital age. Museums worldwide are finally facing their colonial legacies, with institutions like Berlin's Ethnological Museum returning priceless artifacts to Peru after centuries abroad. A gold funerary mask from the Sican culture recently came home to Lambayeque, its repatriation celebrated with ceremonies blending archaeology and ritual. But the real innovation lies in how these objects are being recontextualized. Lima's Pachacamac Site Museum now partners with local communities to annotate displays with QR codes linking to oral histories. Scan a textile, and a Quechua elder appears on your screen explaining its sacred patterns in their own words. Meanwhile, virtual reality projects like Inca Vision let users explore reconstructed temples through the eyes of a 15th century priest, blending cutting-edge tech with ancestral knowledge. Language revival takes center stage in this renaissance. Apps like Simi Diccionario gamify Quechua learning with flashcards and pronunciation guides, while Google Earth now labels South American landmarks in indigenous tongues alongside Spanish. In universities from Cusco to Cambridge, linguistics students are digitizing centuries-old quipu knots through 3D scanning, hoping to crack their code with machine learning. The ripple effects are profound when a bilingual school in Cochabamba introduced Aymara robotics classes. Dropout rates plummeted as students saw their culture reflected in STEM curricula. Yet challenges persist. Mining concessions still threaten sacred sites, and urban migration erodes traditional lifeways. That's why collectives like Newconchick, We Ourselves, train indigenous youth as documentary filmmakers, arming them with drones to monitor environmental damage in their ancestral lands. Others, like the Quechua Collective of New York, host underground language circles where immigrants teach phrases over empanadas and chicha morada. Supporting these efforts doesn't require grand gestures. It starts with small, conscious choices. Buying directly from artisan cooperatives ensures fair wages. Choosing tour operators employing indigenous guides keeps knowledge economies alive. Even following Andean creators on social media amplifies voices rewriting their own narrative. As the mountains watch over a new dawn, one truth becomes clear. The guardians of this heritage aren't just archaeologists or elders. They're the teenager coding a video game in Quechua, the grandmother streaming weaving tutorials, the scientist cross-referencing stellar alignments at forgotten shrines. The future isn't being preserved, it's being lived, and so we return to where we began, the silent sentinels of the Andes, their peaks brushing the heavens. What seemed like endings, abandoned cities, melted glaciers, silenced tongues were merely pauses in a much longer story. The real magic of these mountains isn't in their ruins but in their resilience, in the way every generation finds new ways to honor the old path. As the afternoon light gilds the stones of Sacsayhuaman, casting shadows that resemble a puma's outstretched paws, the past whispers to the present, and the present whispers back. From the whispers of ancient glaciers to the vibrant threads of modern Quechua weavers, the Andes have guided us through a journey where time folds like mountain valleys where past and present walk hand in hand. We've traced the footsteps of the Inca along stone roads that defy earthquakes, deciphered star maps etched into temple walls, and stood where sacrifices once bridged earth and sky. Yet these peaks offer more than ruins, they are living classrooms. Every terraced field still cultivated with ancestral techniques, every festival drumbeat echoing solstice ceremonies, proves that the Andes' greatest treasures aren't buried in the past, but carried forward in the hands of those who remember. What lingers isn't just awe for the Incas' engineering genius or sorrow for what was lost to conquest. It's the quiet revelation that humanity's deepest wisdom often emerges from hardship. The same mountains that demanded impossible feats of survival also inspired solutions. Freeze-dried potatoes to weather famine, suspension bridges woven from grass, cities harmonizing with fault lines. These innovations weren't just practical, they were prayers in physical form, a testament to what happens when cultures listen deeply to the land. A Quechua proverb says, "The mountain does not need the people, but the people need the mountain." It's a reminder that these summits hold lessons far older than empires, lessons about balance, resilience, and our place in a vast, interconnected world. As climate change reshapes glaciers and tourism tests fragile ecosystems, that wisdom feels more urgent than ever. To explore the Andes responsibly isn't just about staying on marked trails or buying handmade textiles. It's about approaching these landscapes with the humility of a student, ready to learn from both their grandeur and their scars. So keep questioning. Wonder how celestial alignments guided temple builders, or why the Nazca etched giants into the desert. Share your own stories in the comments. The sunrise over Vinicunca that left you breathless, the elder who taught you to read coca leaves, the moment you felt the Apu's presence in the wind. And if this journey through the Andes has stirred something in you, pay it forward. Like, subscribe, and help others discover these mountains' enduring magic. The peaks have been teachers for millennia. Their next lesson begins with you.